My mom had a major surgery 2 weeks ago. She's still in the hospital and won't be home for another few weeks yet. I, 16M, am home with my stepdad and my half-brother and sister since my dad isn't in the picture. But my half-siblings go to our grandparents during the day and my stepdad picks them up after work. Sometimes he will keep them with our grandparents for a few extra hours if he's visiting mom and stuff. My stepdad also has 2 kids from his other marriage. His daughter is 11 and his son is 10. My stepdad's kids treat my mom like shit. They're being trained to act like that by their mom, and my stepdad and her have been in court so many times in the last 5 years. But nothing has changed with their behavior toward mom, and him and his ex still fight often about it. His kids call my mom names, say she feeds them shit, tell her she's fat and ugly, and they gag whenever they know she cooked for everyone. It's gross. They told my mom their mom was better than her in every way and she'll never be good. My stepdad punishes them and all that, but it's crazy how hateful they are to mom. They're also really rude to mom's family. I don't really have any affection or patience for them, so we don't interact. But mom gets it a lot. When my mom was brought to hospital, they said, "Good, we hope she dies." My stepdad looked incredibly pissed at them, and I acknowledge he intervened immediately. But all of this means I want nothing to do with them, and I'm so glad when they're not at our house. I really dislike them. My stepdad wants me to feed his kids anyway. He gets home late and he doesn't want to pay for them to stay with a sitter for an hour or 2. He also doesn't want to send them to their mom, which I get. So he wants me to provide some food for them, and I said no. He told me his kids need to eat, and I said it's not my problem, and he does not want me left in charge of his kids ever. He told me they'll go hungry without someone to prepare something, and I said so what? He told me my attitude could use some work. He said he needs my help and he's sorry they said what they said, but I need to understand their mom has poisoned them so much. He told me it won't be forever and I make myself food already, so can't I make some extra? Comment 1. NTA They are old enough to understand consequences, and their stomach grumbling for an hour or 2 won't do them any harm, and will remind them of what they said about your mum. But if it doesn't and they ask you for food, you can remind them who normally cooks for them when they visit, and where she is right now, and what they wanted to happen to her. Stand firm on your boundaries. Your stepfather is not owed your service to his kids, and as many have said, they can make themselves a sandwich. Comment 2. NTA. I know you are only talking about feeding them, but there are other issues to consider. Those kids are very hateful and there is no telling what they may accuse you of doing if you are left alone with them. I have seen false accusations fly in similar situations. You don't want to be a part of that. So tell your stepdad you don't want to be around them unless another adult is present. He will have to figure out their care. Comment 3. NTA for feeling the way you do. But if your mom isn't going to back you up on this, you're fighting a losing battle. It sounds like you and his kids are caught in the middle of trying to blend families that isn't going so well, and that's hard on everyone. But that being said, if you're the oldest one in the home right now, step up and feed them. And if it needs to be dealt with, then do so when your mom is feeling better. That's really the best and most mature choice in what is a can't-win situation. My wife, 32F, and I, 32M, had some compromising to do with extracurricular activities. My wife grew up doing a lot of them. She pretty much never had free time, and her parents are pretty against it for kids. She did gymnastics, softball, basketball, soccer, dance and music growing up. My family were more laid back and that worked for me. I swam and did art sometimes. But none of it was super competitive and serious. My wife did a lot of more competitive stuff and was always serious and going for pro. When we were discussing kids, she wanted the kids to be raised the same as her. I didn't agree with that. So we agreed we wouldn't force it on them, we wouldn't overwhelm them, 2 or 3 at absolute most at a time, and we wouldn't make them do the more competitive sports teams if they didn't want to, but if they wanted to, it wouldn't be stopped either. We have 4 boys. Our older 2 are very into sports and they take it seriously and want to play on serious teams. But our younger boys are the opposite and really don't like team sports. One favors swimming and the other favors rock climbing. But neither want to do either seriously. My wife wanted them to follow in their older brother's footsteps and at least do football on the serious team their brothers were part of and have since progressed from. I disagreed and referenced back to our prior agreement. She disagreed with me and said they need to be on teams and should be more serious about sport. My wife brought her parents into this and all three of them tried to tell me why I was wrong. In-laws said kids with free time are going to grow up to be delinquents and I was the exception to that. They also said the younger boys aren't going to be tough enough for high school and beyond if they don't learn something more solid in terms of sports. I asked what any of this had to do with them being tough and was ignored. My wife said I was being disagreeable for no reason and so unreasonable. I grew frustrated and told her she was using her parents to gang up on me and that we had an agreement and she was refusing to stick to it even though I never interfered in what our older boys wanted. She told me they made the right choices. She wanted our younger boys to do the same. She said they're missing out on the pressure that all kids need to experience young and the expectation that being part of a serious team brings. Her parents said my wife is right and I need to see sense and stop being selfish. I lost my temper and told my in-laws this had nothing to do with them and told my wife she was totally wrong for bringing her parents into this and trying to back me into a corner and I was not okay with any of it. They're mad at me for making it a fight. Comment 1. NTA, your wife and in-laws are sending the message to your kids that their true, authentic selves aren't good enough. Sometimes it's good to push kids a little bit out of their comfort zones so they continue to challenge themselves and try new things. But wanting them to abandon their identities could create some deep wounds. Keep standing up for them and continue to celebrate their true authentic selves. Comment 2. Kids need free time to be bored as it leads to creative play. Delinquents are the kids with only free time and no supervision. Like above, good to push a little, but not to the point of forcing them to be their big brothers. Will breed resentment and North Carolina later. They also are teaching them that they are not as good as their big brothers. Comment 3. It's really important that children are allowed to be individuals. Not everyone has the same personality and needs the same stimuli to grow and develop. Your wife, and her family, need to understand that just because she was the right personality type to benefit from this, doesn't mean that all her children are. She could do more harm than good by forcing them to do something that is not right for them as individuals. Also, most children in the world do not do the list of activities your wife did. In the UK, even among wealthy families, that is very, very excessive. 95% of us managed not to be delinquents as well, go figure. Please don't back down on this for your kids' sake, NTA. I'm 27F dentist and my brother 32M and his soon wife 27F are getting married in less than 2 months. Let's call my sister-in-law Abby. Abby and I never had a relationship of our own. We definitely don't hate each other, but we are not besties. We just exist in each other's presence. I noticed that in the invitation to their wedding that Abby requested the dress code to be all women in the wedding to wear off-the-shoulder dresses, suits or anything just off the shoulder. Doesn't matter the color or the sequence unless it is off the shoulder. Now, as I said, I am a dentist, and as many people already know, dentists may not have the best back/shoulder posture ever. And I'm not an exception, and I always tend to wear outfits that do not emphasize that part of my body. Now, the type of clothing this dress code demands needs someone with a good back posture because that's the emphasis. I totally lack that, and yes, I did try one dress of the shoulder on, looked absolutely horrendous. So I asked if the dress code is really that important and if I have to abide it, but my brother told me Abby stressed on this dress code so much. And Abby was like, if she leeways me, she has to leeway everyone. I was kinda baffled that so much importance was placed on a certain type of clothing with no explanation given. I went with my friend shopping hoping I'd find one that I looked not so clownery in. I tried on so many different fits, looked like Shiite in all of them. So I told my mother, since they are so attached to that dress code, then I think the best option here for me is to not go. So I wouldn't ruin their organization and I wouldn't have nightmares about how awful I looked in that event. But my mum got mad at me and said I'm being dramatic for not wanting to be there for brother and family just for a dress. I told her I want to attend but I also want to look good and feel pretty, and they are sticking to such a stupid rule that they can't provide a meaning. Regardless, I respected that and decided not to ruin their image of how they want their wedding. My mum said my absence will also ruin things because the guests will wonder why the sister is not attending when I'm healthy. I told her well, the guests will also wonder why I look like I could be the guy of Hunchback Notre Dame. Okay, I'm not that bad but you get the gist here. My mum is still mad at me, haven't told my brother and sister-in-law yet. Comment 1, YTA. You are being unnecessarily dramatic and self-centered, loosen up your spine and your attitude. I agree the dress code seems dumb. But no one's going to care about how you look in your outfit as long as you are not leaning over them with dental tools in hand. Take an emergency shawl or stole or something just in case. Comment 2. Considering it takes 8 years to become a dentist, and assuming you started at age 17, how TF did you ruin your back already? You've got bigger worries than this wedding. But damn, you might as well go to the wedding and take some pictures because these will probably be the best your back will ever look. But seriously OP, obviously you're responding incredibly sarcastic and condescending to everyone telling you to straighten out your shoulders, terrific bedside manner of a dentist, but for you to mess up your back only 2 years into your career. You clearly need all the advice you can get. For your sake, correct your back/posture before this becomes even worse. Comment 3. Unless you have a diagnosed kyphosis, you are able to stand up straight. TBH, I've never noticed that the dentists I have gone to have had awful posture when they're standing up, walking up to me or away from me. YTA. If you have hunched over to the point that you cannot stand up straight pain-free, because why else wouldn't you just stand up straight? Then you need to get a referral to a physical therapist. I do agree with you that insisting on off-the-shoulder dresses/blouses/whatever is one of the weirdest dress code rules I've ever seen. The wedding photos are going to look ridiculous. I, 20M, and my sister, 23, have been very close since she lost her baby. She lost the baby at the end of 2022, when she was about 5 months pregnant. Obviously our whole family was shocked and very supportive initially. However, I really tried to help her through this and get her back on her feet. Coming to her apartment to clean and cook her food. It also doesn't help that her baby daddy left shortly after. My sister was unable to work because of her depression, so my family would help chip in and pay her bills. She remained like this for about 7 months when my parents told her that they couldn't no longer support her, when all she does is lay in bed and smoke a lot, like 24/7, but they don't know that, and that she at least needs to look for a job. She lashed out and said she needs their support now more than ever. Regardless of them, I began to solely supporting her. Mind you, I still live with my parents and attending school. That brings us to last Friday. I have about 3 semesters left of school and money has been getting tight. I told my sister that I really need to start saving, and that she needs to get a job, or just move back in. She lashed out on me, saying that I could never understand, 100% true, and that I was a terrible brother for even mentioning it. I said, excuse me? I've paying for your bills for over a year, and have been the only one trying to help her get over this. She began yelling at me and calling me terrible names. I just snapped and said I don't give a duck about her dead baby. I did none of this for that baby. I helped her because I love my sister, I want what's best for my sister, I want her to recover. I told her this and she started attacking me. I just left. The next morning my parents sat me down and told me what I said was very wrong and rude. I explained what happened and how I still continued paying her bills after they stopped. They just were quiet, and then just left. My mother grabbed my shoulder and told me that my sister started apply for jobs. I really feel bad, but also to a certain degree it worked and she is at least looking to work. I know my sister will forgive me eventually, but I still feel bad. Comment 1. NTA. I've lost 4 babies, 2 sets of twins during fertility treatments with my husband. We have grieved for years, roller coaster of ups and downs. But no one else has ever financially supported us, taken us in, or allowed us to wallow in our pain for too long. Nor have we allowed ourselves to do that. We are still grieving and probably always will, but we have to keep moving forward, too. What helped the most? Friends who would listen, journal writing, crying when I needed to, but I have always wiped my tears away when it was time to and gotten up to keep moving forward. That is imperative for recovery of a loss. You've been a great brother and your family should be proud of you. I hope they are. Comment 2. NTA. The soft approach wasn't working. Even the mildly hard approach, i.e. your parents bowing out of supporting her, wasn't enough. She needed a true shock to the system to get her life restarted. Honestly, she never should have been supported like this. Idleness is the #1 enemy of moving on from grief. When you have no choice but to focus on continuing to live, you move on because you have to. Wallowing in grief is a luxury, and one that doesn't improve anyone's life. Comment 3. ESH. You definitely could have handled it better, as she's clearly traumatized and you likely could have gotten your point across without it. That being said, she is also the R for not treating her trauma and mental illness while taking advantage of everyone.